Dr. Alby Anand Kurian is a marketing theorist and a writer. He has been featured among 30 marketers from around the world. Anand Kurian was educated at Bombay Scottish School, St. Xavier College, and Government Loyal College, Mumbai. He stood first in the division of the University of Cambridge ISC examination. He outranked IIT IM, and GS Medical College students at law. He stopped moot courts in the city, the status as well as in the country. His PhD thesis was recommended by two deans of IIM Ahmedabad. He trained in advertising in New York and founded Emphasis. The company has conceived and executed advertising work for multinational majors such as Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and Nestle, and for products such as Lay's, Ariel, and Coca-Cola. He has conceived and developed the twin marketing management concept of Reality Plus, Neo People, and the other allied concept. His recent concept, Conflict as a Marketing Tool. CMIT was published by Knowledge, Wharton, and republished by the Wharton Center for Leadership and Change Management. Kurian's book, The Paddler of Soaps, was on the bestseller list. For his next book, professionals from all over the world, from Narayan Murthy, the founder of Infosys, to the co-founder of Kotler Marketing Management, are interpreting the management concept in their own area of specializing. So help me to welcome Dr. Alby Anand Kurian, a marketing theorist and a writer. Welcome to Exonte TV. Thank you for joining in today. Thanks for accepting my request.
Thank you so much, Priya. It's wonderful to be here with you today. And I'm sure that we'll have a very, very interesting conversation.
I'm sure. I have seen your work. I have seen your journey. So let's, I would like to drill in that one a bit, if it's okay. So would you like to tell something about yourself before we jump into the further details questions?
Well, I think I've had a very checkered journey. And I think all of that has come in, very, very useful at some point or the other. Actually, as a matter of fact, I trained as a lawyer, and I did pretty well in moot courts. I was first in the country in moot courts, etc. And then, of course, I came into advertising, and we were making advertising films. And
right.
we were making advertising films for the largest multinationals in the world. And we're talking about Coca-Cola and Lay's and Procter & Gamble and Unilever. So it's very interesting that in all these aspects of the journey, you learn something or the other. In the sense, whether it's, for instance, a lot of people ask me, what's the connection between law and advertising? And I think one of the interesting incidents that I remember is that when I was representing Bombay University at the All India Moot Court competition, and I remember, I think it was a surgeon's case that I was defending.
Yeah.
And all the while you're talking from the point of view of the surgeon. That means you're saying, I did this operation or I did this surgery. So you're putting yourself in that surgeon's shoes. So when I was in advertising, I found, yes, you have to put yourself in the client's shoes. You have to think, what is it like for the client? You have to think, what is it like for the customer?
Yeah.
You have to learn to put yourself in their shoes, which is a very useful talent in marketing, I think.
Yeah. So I feel like it's more of a psychometric, understanding the psychometric side of, and I always talk about this, like intent-based if you are doing marketing, it has to be intent-based. So like, unless you know the consumer's intention, it is untargeted marketing for me, so.
Absolutely. I would say that in many of I teach in I'm the head of the doctorate program in a management school, and but I always say that apart from all the normal modules that we teach in a marketing school, I would say that topics such as psychology, and I'm talking about pure psychology, not just consumer psychology.
Yeah.
A topic such as sociology, which is about how people interact with each other. All this is really important. It's very, very important. You're absolutely right.
So, having said that, among the like whatever we do, like which of the element of your background that you think have contributed most to what you have become and what you have done today?
Oh, I would definitely say the years that I spent in ad filmmaking. We were doing, of course, marketing, communication, strategic consultancy,
Right.
but the most the most valuable years, I would say, were spent making ad films. You know, in the time, because there you're really thinking from the point of view of the customer. You're putting yourself in his shoes. He is seeing this TV commercial. How do we engage him emotionally with the product?
For sure.
And I think the biggest learning, I think, was that marketing is really about emotions, you know. I mean, as I said, even in the marketing school where I teach, we are mostly teaching left brain, logical stuff. But actually, I would really say that marketing is really about right brain, emotional, material for the heart. How? Because people are not really making marketing decisions, whether they're buying a small little, whether they're buying not a handbags are not small anymore. You have very expensive handbags, but, but whether you're buying a handbag or whether you're buying a car, there are a lot of emotions involved, and you
Yeah.
know, marketing people, all of us, I think we have to learn to understand those emotions and those emotional triggers
Yeah. Yeah.
much better than we are doing now.
Yeah, I always ask this question to my consumers. Are you in a need business or in you want business?
Absolutely.
And the moment something involves with the want, you cannot ignore the importance of emotions and EQ level, and that's why it is very important for people to understand the personality type whom they are targeting. So, like if your businesses are actually targeted to very director oriented people, like people are very to the point, then you should know that what 5 bullet points you are bringing to them to value add them,
Absolutely.
isn't it? So
Absolutely.
that's a very interesting point. So among the marketing concept that you have conceived and developed, which is the one that you think you would rate as the most important?
Well, I would say that I mean there are quite a few, but I think the two that are I think the most relevant today would be something. One was something that I called Reality Plus. Reality Plus is actually you're seeing it all around you today.
Yeah.
I think the example that I gave when I first talked about it at some conference and I wrote about it, I think the first appeared in the Business Standard. I think the example that I gave was we had worked on L'Oreal,
Right.
and L'Oreal is a hair dye. And at that time, I was very, very young, and I was sitting with the marketing director, and we were all sitting in the boardroom, and we were talking about making the commercial for L'Oreal. And I said, you know, I kept using the word hair dye, and finally he corrected me and he said, you know, we don't make a hair dye, we make a hair color. And I was very young at that point, and I was arguing with him, and I was saying, you know, what's the big difference? By then, he was quite upset, and he said, the big difference is that just by changing one word from hair dye to hair color, our sales have gone up by millions of dollars. Our revenue has gone up by, you know, some incredible figures. So that's when you realize that what works in the world today is not reality. The reality of the product had not changed. The chemical ingredients of the product had not changed.
Yeah.
But just by calling it hair color rather than hair dye,
Yeah.
such a huge difference in profits. And today, of course, you're seeing the application of Reality Plus to nearly every aspect of marketing.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the advertisement, like, is so powerful emotionally. It's just stuck in your head. Like you can, it's still some of my childhood ad, I could not forget.
Yeah.
Some of them are so powerful. It has a small ad can actually create a lot of emotion and memory to you. I believe in like bringing all that texture in that. Just one word can make a lot of difference. So do you think that marketing has a role to play outside the normal category of product and services?
Absolutely. I think, marketing plays a very, very important part in nearly every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember that saying that I know it sounds very blasphemous, and I don't mean any disrespect at all. As a matter of fact, I think he's probably the greatest person in our generation. But I said that India's best advertising man was Mahatma Gandhi. And so how does it work in the freedom struggle? But so marketing, I'm not saying that Mahatma Gandhi thought of it consciously, but he was using it subconsciously.
Yeah.
The Quit India was a very powerful slogan.
Yeah.
Quit India is just two words.
Yeah.
But it's so memorable, and of course it evokes a lot of emotion as well. And then if you see in terms of a logo or something for people to remember,
Yeah.
I think if Gandhi had dressed in a coat and tie, I don't think people would have quite remembered him as much as they do.
Yeah.
Immediately, when you close your eyes, you think of Gandhi and you think of that, what I think Winston Churchill called the half-naked fakir, right?
Yeah.
But that's such a memorable, iconic look. So obviously, Gandhi didn't do it so that he would be memorable, and he was not using it as
No,
a
sure. Yeah.
But it worked like that.
Yeah.
And I'd say things like Quit India, etc., were wonderful slogans.
Yes.
Similarly, of course, today in politics, I mean, actually, I would say that today the best marketing people are not working in selling detergents or colas. The best marketing people are really working in politics.
Yeah.
And I'm putting the ethics of it aside. I'm not going into the ethical side of it.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm saying that you're seeing, wonderful applications of marketing theories, principles, concepts in politics.
Yeah.
And it's something that one has to admire, and you have to learn from them.
Yeah.
They're doing a wonderful job. The ethical side of it is not what I'm discussing. I'm saying the mechanics of marketing politicians has become very, very, very good.
Yeah, some of the campaigns are actually coming up tremendously good, for sure. I mean, if you will ignore other part of it, then it's a different story to discuss about. But yeah, even like if you as you mentioned, India, that currently Modi, one word become like kind of a campaign itself.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely.
So like it's such a powerful, and it's not about one word, it's about the personality you project behind that.
It's almost word perfect, picture perfect marketing, whether you see in India or whether you see it in the USA. I think Barack Obama was one of the first to really use digital marketing perfectly.
Yeah.
And he used it very, very well. And Trump does it very differently, but he's using very good marketing principles as well. I'm not saying it's necessarily Trump. It may be his team, or it may be him alone and along with the team. But they're doing an incredibly good job.
Yeah, and even in like when you look at the Trump's history, he already used a lot his PR technique and marketing technique. He always creates some sensation, whether it is right or wrong. He creates that sensation, and I was talking to one of our editor, from the very famous magazine, and the guy was suggesting these days people are less bothering about the information because it's in abundance now, but people are more looking into the sensational news and the information which provokes some kind of a emotion. So that's what they are playing, I believe.
Absolutely. I think that's where I think, see, as I said, I'm not going into the ethical side of politics. So if you see where Trump, now whether people agree with Trump or whether people disagree with Trump, it is always Trump who is in the newspaper. It is always Trump who is in the magazine. It's always Trump who is in the television program. It's always Trump who's on the internet. So even people who disagree violently with him, but they're always putting him on their magazine, or on their
Yeah.
internet, or on their
Yeah.
television channel. So it is still Trump who is selling the channel, or selling the magazine or the newspaper.
Mm.
As I said, the content of his governance, etc., that is a totally different aspect. I'm just talking about the
In terms of marketing and how you project yourself. And I believe every person has like personality, and your business reflects through your personality. So when it comes to the business, I believe you would agree on that, that when it comes to the business personality, it's kind of your reflection. So it's never a B2B, B2C concept. It's more of a human to human, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's where, again, I think again, it's always Trump. Trump talks to people, talks to all of us, talks to the world, talks to Americans like he's talking to a human being.
Yeah.
You might have somebody who's a very intelligent person, somebody who's a very competent person, somebody who's even maybe a very ethical person, but he may not be able to connect with other humans as a human being. He may
Yeah.
not be able to connect at an emotional level. He may not be able to interest you, entertain you,
Yeah.
make you laugh, make you feel joyous, make you
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Those are abilities that nearly every politician from now on will have to have.
Yeah.
I think you will have to be uh, a master of television. You'll have to be telegenic, and all those aspects have to be taken care of.
Yeah, and that's why I see not many people are actually going to remember the Hillary Clinton slogan, but everybody remembers his slogan. He repeated it so many times, he marketed it so many times, and it's just that in people's head, right? So it's
absolutely. I think absolutely, it's a. Actually, marketing has reached some kind of pinnacle right now. I would say that the kind of work that we are seeing on digital as well as non-digital.
Yeah.
We're seeing the fusion of old-fashioned, ideas that we always knew about branding, about marketing.
Yeah.
And we're combining it with the latest technologies, etc., etc.
Yeah. So like in that sense, like among the general management concept that you have developed, which is the most topical one given the pandemic that you are living in today? Like,
I think, something that's not connected to the pandemic, but it's connected, that's not connected to marketing so directly, but it's pretty much connected to the world as we're living today, is something that we call Laggards Lock. Laggards Lock is a concept that I discussed with a lot of people who are in the technology industry, like Mr. Narayan Murthy, etc. There's a wonderful interview I did with him. So we conceived, the Laggards Lock is a concept that I conceived with my classmate, Nitin Borwanka. What is the Laggards Lock? The Laggards Lock happens when we buy a new technology.
Yeah.
We use the new technology, but we use it in the old way because our mind is still stuck in the old way. And therefore, we are not getting the full benefit of that technology.
Right.
I'll give you a very interesting story which explains Laggards Lock very well. We had an uncle of mine, and we used to call him Remote Uncle.
Okay.
Everybody would ask, why do you call him Remote Uncle? What happened was, Remote Uncle was born at a time when there were no television remotes.
Right. Okay.
There were no TV remotes. And then, when I think by then he had hit around 70, and his children bought him a TV with a remote.
Yeah.
And then we all visited him a little later, and then we found something interesting happening. We saw how he was using the TV remote. He would place the TV remote on the TV itself.
Okay.
He would sit on the sofa, and every time he had to change the channel, he would walk to the TV set, pick up the remote, change the channel, and put the remote back on the TV.
Got it.
He would do that for anything. So he had bought a TV with a remote. he was using the remote, but he was using the remote in the old way.
Yeah.
And because he was using the remote in the old way, he was not getting the full benefit of it.
For sure.
That's something that we can all understand. But for instance, when Narayan Murthy found this very funny, and he was laughing, and he said, yes, I can see the application of this in many of our clients. So
Yeah.
he was saying that many of the banks, when they first introduced computers, etc., they said, okay, computers means everything that we used to have in ledgers, now we will put on the computer. And
Yeah.
that's what digital banking means. It was only later that the banks realized that, oh, digital banking can mean so many things. You can withdraw money on the internet.
Yeah.
That takes some time for us to fully understand.
Yeah. Got it.
So,
Yeah. I understand that because been there in that space. So like I can correlate. It's very interesting to see, how people still, even in marketing, there are a lot of people I'm working and they come to me on the digital media side and they said, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing this way. I'm doing that way. And I just keep listening to them. And then they say, but Priya, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm like, isn't it the same 6-degree separation? I'm like, it is, but it is not, right?
Absolutely. In marketing, I think, because many of us grew up in the pre-digital era, many of the great creative directors in advertising grew up and worked, they would make great TV commercials. And
yeah.
So when they came into the digital, their idea was, okay, you take the TV commercial, 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and put it on the internet. And that's the end of their, they were great great creative directors. But their understanding of the new medium was, of course, limited.
Yeah, but now if you are actually targeting digital one, 5 seconds, people will skip, right? So your core message should be within 5 seconds.
5 seconds, exactly.
And if it is a 6-degree separation, it's actually turning into the 3-degree separation. Who cares about what happens at the 4th degree, 5? The philosophy was the same when the social media came, I believe, right? But the implementation was on that philosophy. But then it grew so much more than that, I believe. That's where we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there are so many, doomsayers in the world today. Do you share that pessimism?
That's a very interesting thought because it's definitely true. And of course, living through the pandemic as we are doing now, living through lockdowns in every part of the world, living through cycles and fresh cycles of, the pandemic, it can be a very, very difficult time for the whole world. But one of the things that we should realize is that we are living in a world that is better than ever before. So you have a wonderful book by a professor from Harvard, Professor Pinker, who said, and he was not doing it at an emotional level at all. He was looking at it very rationally. He said, look at every aspect. First, he looked, of course, at the economies, and he said, obviously, our GDP and our per capita incomes are higher than ever before. And it's not just about the rich countries. Even the developing economies, GDP and per capita income has gone up.
Yeah.
And even the poor countries, their per capita incomes have gone up. So just income. Then you look at, say, something like violence. How many people are dying from wars? How many people are dying from crime? So he looked at the actual figures and he said, in the olden days, so many people were dying. And today, because of wars, how many people are dying?
Yeah.
Because of crime, how many people are dying?
Yeah.
So the numbers are all so positive. The numbers are all so positive. Then he was looking at other crimes against women, crimes against children. He was looking even at crimes against animals, animal cruelty, etc.
Yeah.
And in everything, the world is a better place today than it ever was before.
Totally agree.
Now, why is it then that if you ask especially if you ask young people, they'll say, we're living in a terrible world. A lot of people say, things seem so terrible. I think partly it's because uh, good news is not news. So if a newscaster on television tells you today 1 million planes took off and none of them had a crash, everything was normal.
Yeah.
1 million flights took off, 1 million planes landed, everybody was safe. Then you'll say, but that's not news. Why are you telling me this? But if one plane crashes,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it's not a tragedy, but if 20 people pass away, then that's in 20 seconds, the whole world gets to know.
Yeah.
Everybody's discussing it. And it sounds, I'm not saying that it's not terrible, but I'm just saying that we are not seeing it in context. Millions of planes are taking off every day. Millions of passengers are landing safely, but one plane crash within 20 seconds is news.
Yeah.
And similarly, even I'm in Singapore, and Singapore has very, very low crime rates.
Yeah.
But even if there's one small crime somewhere, it's headline news.
Yeah.
Even if a train is late one day, because Singapore is such a perfect city, even if a train is late, it's headline news, and everybody starts saying, oh, things are very terrible. But actually, trains are going on time nearly every day.
Yeah.
I mean, one day it's late and it's headline news, and everybody says, oh, Singapore's so terrible.
Yeah.
So,
So a lot of time government get criticized for very small things, whereas it's a common practice in the developing country. There are a lot of things are actually very different, and in developing countries, there are a lot of crimes unnoticed and unheard.
Absolutely.
But people are getting into. I'm saying it's not right or wrong about. It's just saying this is the scenario. We are living into it. So. It was really interesting to discuss with you. Do you think that, the way people are actually getting into that social media and consciousness of like being always seen as perfect, it's actually costing somehow emotionally to the people?
Definitely where social media is concerned. See, social media is a very exciting place from a technology point of view, from a marketing point of view, from a professional point of view, from say a parental point of view, or from if you're looking at it from a teenager's point of view. Yes, of course, social media is a very tricky area to be traversed. Especially, I would say it's a little tough on teenagers, because suddenly you're exposed to perfect images. Everybody has to look perfect, dress perfect. It's placing a lot of pressure on young people, especially. And I think even to some extent, I'm a parent as well, but and my children are not teenagers anymore, so I can't really control their social media habits. But I think some kind of parental control over social media for teenagers. I know it sounds anomalous that I should say that, because we are all marketing people, but from the point, that's separate. I see it as a wonderful technological development is a different thing. But, when it comes to young people, yes, I think we need some safeguards
for the future generation.
Yeah,
that's what the concern.
For young people, I think above 21, I think we can take care of ourselves, and we should learn to take care of ourselves and learn, not to take social media too seriously, etc. But I think some kind of regulations when it comes to teenagers. Probably
I think there are a lot of things going unprecedented, which is not right, I believe. So, my last question to that, like, how do you see the future of marketing? Where do you see where we are heading?
Oh, it's from a pure professional point of view, from a technology point of view, from all those aspects. I think marketing is at a very, very wonderful. We are going through a period when we are seeing all our old ideas about all the seminal foundational ideas about human beings and how they interact and why they buy products. we are seeing all that in action, but we are seeing it in action in a digital sphere.
Yeah.
And that's a very exciting, and there are lots of learnings and lots of wonderful things that will happen. And of course, we've talked about some of the negative aspects as well, but there are many, many wonderful aspects. You can sell your products all over the world. You can be a small player, and you can still do well.
Yeah.
These are wonderful aspects about marketing that are emerging today.
So, having said that, the $1,000 laptop can bring you $1 million business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting. Thank you for joining in. It was nice chatting with you, and I'm sure there are a lot of things they will achieve the audience, and all your details will be given below the comment. You want to suggest something to the future marketers?
Thank you so much, Priya. It was really wonderful talking to you, and it was really, I think I enjoyed it, and I'm sure that we've covered some interesting areas. For future marketers, work hard, study hard, but I would say, it's not just the changes that have happened now which are very exciting. There are going to be many more exciting changes. Yeah. And those will be wonderful opportunities. So you should grasp it. But of course, you should stay in touch with and in tune with all the changes that happen. You can't say, no, I'll still work in the old way.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you for joining in. And we will touch base with you soon. Again, maybe my audience would like to hear again from more future AI-based marketing, maybe. That's where our future is heading up.
Thank you so much.